Please note, this presentation is a learning support resource designed to aid students in improving their studies. This presentation is by no means stating that the recommendations mentioned herein within this presentation are compulsory. In some circumstances they may be, in others they may not be. It is up to the student to take the ideas presented here and incorporate them into their mainstream studies in an effective way that aligns with their mainstream modules, rules and work ethic, taking resources, ideals, priority and other related factors into account. Good day. My name is Mr Ashwin Manival and I am one of the Principal Academic Development Officers in the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science on the Pietermaritzburg campus. I am going to present to you on a very important topic titled The Importance of Proper Record Keeping of Notes and Tutorials. The concepts I want to cover in this presentation are all listed on this slide. Firstly, I want to explain to you why proper record keeping of notes and tutorials are relevant to you as a student. I then want to provide you with a plan to keep better records. I then want to explain some advantages to keeping records in the way that I am describing. I will then zoom into the importance of handwriting and why I think it is one of the most important techniques available to students for learning. Finally, I will leave you with a summary of key points and leave you with my contact details so that if you feel that you would like to ask me questions after watching this presentation, you will be able to contact me. The most common skill set amongst all professionals is that of record keeping. It does not matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a scientist, or a manager of a retail store. The ability to keep proper records and to return to them when needed is a critical skill set. It stands to reason that if record keeping is such a critical skill set in the real world, then there should be some kind of training that takes place at university that prepares students for record keeping. In actual fact, there is. The act of recording notes, completing tutorials, and storing this information away for later use is record keeping in practice. Everything you do as a student revolves around your notes. When you go to lectures, you take or are given notes. When you go to a practical, you are learning practical skills revolving around the ideas in your notes. When you do a tutorial, you are being given questions that test the application of the knowledge in your notes. And finally, when you write a test or exam, you are being tested on content that is in your notes. Therefore, record keeping of notes and tutorials is not just a relevant skill set, but it is a critical one that not just helps you prepare for assessments, but helps you prepare for the real world. I want to firstly present to you a plan for keeping notes. The plan I want to suggest to you will work on a chronological system. This just means that you will store your notes away in the order in which you receive them. The filing of notes will be based on a weekly system. This means that at the end of every week, a summary of all notes will be made by you for different modules and will be stored away together with the primary materials that contribute to the summary. Consider the blue box on the screen. Within this box, you will see all kinds of different sources of material that contribute towards your notes for the week. The first kind of notes would be notes from Moodle. These include PowerPoint voiceovers, PowerPoint slides, worksheets, video lectures, and other materials that your lecturer uploads for you, directly related to the content that has been covered in that week. The second type of material include your notes recorded during live Zoom lectures or classroom lectures that took place in that week. The third type of material include notes that you have extracted from textbooks and ebooks directly related to the content covered during that week. And the last type of material include information from the internet directly related to content covered in that week. So here is how a typical week should look. Before your lecture, you should have some idea of what will be discussed in the lecture. You must do light reading on the concepts that will be discussed. You must also do a light recap of what has been discussed in previous lectures, if this is relevant. You will then attend the lecture. The lecture may be a live lecture, or under circumstances of lockdown, your lecture may be a Zoom lecture. There's also scenarios where your lecturer will record voiceovers of PowerPoint slides or use some other medium to get the lecture content to you. It does not matter the medium through which this takes place. You must record handwritten notes using a pen and a writing pad during your lecture. In the case of the Zoom lectures, you must also do the same. Your lecturer may record the Zoom lecture and post the link to the video. You can then download the video and go over it again, all the while taking notes with a pen and a writing pad. With the case of voiceovers, you must simulate a live lecture situation in real time. Allow the clips to play and take notes. You have the added advantage now of being able to rewind the clips and play back parts you may not have understood first time round. Remember, handwritten notes does not mean you write everything the lecturer says, but only the key points and summaries. They are not perfect transcriptions. These notes are not perfect and complete, but are meant to fill in gaps with respect to your notes that you already have received on Moodle, and may also highlight key areas that you will need to look into later in the week. After the lecture, or sometimes before the lecture, you may need to read sections in textbooks or ebooks. Being able to source information from textbooks is a very important skill set because it is a skill set that will be required for research. When you read the textbook, make handwritten notes as you proceed. Remember again that these notes are not word-for-word transcriptions, but rather key points and summaries. Finally, you will do the same with your information that you find on the web. At the end of the week, you will sit down and take all sources of information mentioned above with your notes that you have taken for them, and you will consolidate all of these into a polished, refined note summary for that week. This will be a handwritten set of notes that summarizes the key points discussed throughout the week. You will then take this polished set of notes, staple them together, and store them in a file, labeling it under week 1. The emphasis here is placed on engaging with the content and finding problem areas, learning how to summarize notes, handwriting, and filing notes away. The outcome is an organized work set, the ability to reproduce material when you want it, and enhanced learning because you are actively engaging with the content. The plan for keeping tutorials works using the same principles. We record tutorials in chronological order on a weekly basis. Let us use for an example week 1 of the semester. Your weekly routine will be as follows. Your lecturer will post the questions for your tutorials on Moodle. You must download the questions and work through them. If you have access to a printer, then you must print the questions out. If you do not have access to a printer, then you do not need to print them out. You must then work through your tutorial on your own. You must use your notes from the different areas mentioned in the previous slide, if relevant, and polish summaries to help you solve the problems. You may not solve every problem. That is fine. You must, however, attempt the problem. You must internalize the problem. Be aware of your shortcomings, no matter how severe these are. When the tutorial takes place, you must engage with the lecturer. Ask questions related to the problem areas. At the end of the week, you should be in possession of 3 things: tutorial questions for that week, your initial answers for that week, and the lecturer's answers for that week. You will sit down on the weekend and create a polished revised tutorial answers taking all of these into account. This is a handwritten copy of all the answers for that tutorial. The bottom line is that before the week comes to an end, you must be in possession of every single answer to the tutorial that took place during that week. If you are not in possession of the answers, then you must make it your duty to go and find these answers. Consult with lecturers, tutors, SI leaders, and so on, and make sure this is settled. The emphasis here is placed on problem solving, handwriting, and filing. The end result is an organized work set, the ability to reproduce material when you want, and enhanced learning is taking place because you are engaging with the content. So at this point you might be asking the question, what is the whole point of keeping notes in the way that I am describing? In this slide I am going to present to you a few reasons why the system works and why it will be advantageous to you. Number one, you will have early engagement with the content. When you keep notes in the way I am describing, you will engage with your content early in the semester. The purpose of early engagement is not necessarily to learn the content perfectly. It is to become aware of problem areas so that you can fix them. There is a difference between a person who knows what they do not know and a person who does not know what they do not know. The person who knows what they do not know is able to recognize the answer to his problem when he sees it. The person who does not know what they do not know will never be able to recognize the answer to his problem, even if he's staring at it. One of the most important jobs you have as a student is to engage with the content and familiarize yourself with the problem areas that you have as early in the semester as possible. The problem is that people in general do not like to be confronted with problems. It is not psychologically pleasing to keep facing situations where you simply do not know. However, you must realize that the first step to knowing is acknowledging that you do not know. When you become conscious of this, engaging with your work early in the semester will be easier and routine. Number two, difficult problems get a chance to be put on the back burner. Have you ever been in a situation where a lecturer explained something to you in the first week of lectures and you just did not understand? Then out of the blue, 2 weeks later, while walking along the library lawn, you figure it out. You ask yourself the question, how was I able to figure this out? Well, two things have happened since that first week. Number one, you have come across new knowledge. The new knowledge built onto the old knowledge, and your mind is now able to process a solution for the problem that you actively internalized in the first week. The second is that time has passed since the first week. This means that your mind has been given time to engage with the content, internalize the problem, process the information, and come up with a solution. Many times students do not engage with the content early in the semester. They wait until a test or an exam. They study a few days before. The problem with this is that the student never really comes to the point where they internalize the problem. They never really give their mind enough time to process the information in a natural way to arrive at a solution. A large part of studying is about memorizing, but at its core, it is mainly about understanding, and understanding takes time. Number three, your records are ready and waiting for you to use them. Many times you will need to refer back to your notes during a tutorial or during a practical. If you keep records the way I am showing you, you will be able to do so with ease. Number four, enhanced learning is taking place. This fourth point is extremely important. When you keep notes the way I am describing, two very important ideas are at work. Firstly, when you have the content of your studies ordered in a logical system, neatly in a hard copy file, it is easier for your mind to store this content in an ordered, logical, and systematic way. Many of your ideas you are learning are very abstract to you. Even if in reality they may not be abstract, but to you who have no tangible physical reference point, they become abstract. By having a physical filing system, you give the mind something tangible to reference against, even if it is just on the administrative level. Secondly, we all learn through the 5 senses. This is seeing, tasting, hearing, smelling, and touching. There is no other way a person learns about the physical world except through the 5 senses. Let us use a hypothetical example. Let us say we have a brain in a jar, a perfect brain, a brain that has the capacity to learn perfectly. However, let us say we cut off every sensory function from this brain. The brain does not receive any information about seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, or smelling. I now ask you this question: can this brain learn? The answer is no. A brain that is cut off from the 5 senses cannot learn. Now let us allow this brain to see. Now the brain is able to process information about what it sees, eyesight. It can now learn, but only in a limited capacity, limited to sight. Now let us allow this brain to see and hear. Now the brain is able to hear what it is looking at sounds like, and it is able to see what its hearing looks like. The brain now has a higher capacity to learn because you have introduced another sensory function. Now let us allow this brain to connect with all 5 senses. Now the brain can learn about the object it is looking at to its full capacity. When the method you use to learn uses multiple sensory functions, the neural pathways associated with learning become more enhanced, more solidified and strengthened, as opposed to just one sensory function. You will notice that in each of the plans that I've given you, a key area I asked you to focus on was handwriting. The reason why I stress handwriting so much is because handwriting is linked to enhanced learning. Handwriting utilizes multiple sensory functions. When you write with a pen, your hand has to use the pen to make contact with the page. It has to perform micro movements with careful precision to articulate the letters. Each curve, each jot, each dot. Your mind builds a network of neural pathways associated with these fine motor skills, and this aids in the process of learning. Handwriting has a strong oral component to it. When you were in preschool, your teacher taught you phonics. For example, the letters A, B, C, D have voicings. They have sounds. These are phonics. The phonics are A, B, K, and D. In addition, these phonics are used to form words which carry the character of the phonics of the individual letters. When you write out words and letters, your brain is also registering these as sounds. Finally, handwriting has a strong visual component. When you handwrite, you see the words you are writing. However, you don't just see the words. In many cases, you are able to visualize what you are writing about. Because handwriting utilizes the motor, oral, and visual sensory functions, and sometimes there may be other senses that are involved, handwriting is one of the most powerful tools a student can use to learn when studying. Number 5. The summaries that you create will be needed for intensive studying. All students at some time in the semester will need to sit down and make note summaries. The problem is that students tend to do this directly before an exam or test. The period allocated before an exam or test is for intense studying. It is for going over work you have already gone over. It is not a time when you should be going over new work. When this period arrives, you who have already done your note summaries will be in a position to do intense studying and memorization. A student who does not keep a filing system of this kind will be preparing their note summaries in the study period and will never have the time to do intense study. Number 6, peace of mind. Have you ever been in a situation where your friends ask you to go to the movies with them or have lunch or hang out? Do you find yourself feeling guilty thinking, well, I'm sure that there is something for me to do? When you keep a filing system that I am describing, you will have something to measure academic progress against. If your filing system is behind, then you are behind. If your filing system is not up to date, then you are not up to date. In this case, sit down and get it up to date. Even if you are behind, you know exactly how much you are behind. Information anxiety occurs when there is a disproportion between the knowledge that a student should know and the knowledge he perceives that he should be knowing. When you are keeping track of what is expected and what you have done, you will feel less stress related to information anxiety. Number 7, reduces anxiety related to organization. There is a kind of anxiety that exists that is related to order. People who are more ordered generally report less anxiety. When you keep your study material ordered, you will feel less stress. The root of anxiety could be through cognitive overload. Cognitive overload occurs when a student is attempting to learn a new concept and is unable to for various reasons. Lack of organization is not the only reason for cognitive overload. However, it can play a role. If you keep things ordered, then you will reap the benefit of feeling in control and will experience lower stress. The following slide lists some key points and direct quotes concerning the importance of handwriting. I do not want to go into detail concerning these points. All these points have been extracted from articles and publications and are referenced as indicated. If you are interested, please click the link in the description below and give these articles a read. I'll just list the key points for now. Handwriting is linked to literacy. Handwriting practice enhances learning. Better handwriting is linked to better writing composition. Handwriting may boost academic success. And handwriting can help students learn a second language much easier. The last point is of special importance because there are many students who struggle with English. If you are a student who is struggling with English, utilizing handwriting into your studies will help you improve. Finally, let me summarize the key ideas mentioned in this presentation. Number 1. Improve your administrative skill set. The way you manage your studies matter. Answer your emails, keep proper records, and keep up to date in general. As a student, you have the potential to succeed. You are a university student. If you were not capable of passing, you would not have been let into university. However, there is a great much work left to be done to get to where you want to be. Record keeping is a huge part of this work. Number 2, keep proper records of soft copy and hard copy notes and tutorials. Number 3, handwrite out a summary of select notes. Practice taking handwritten notes for your lecturer's voiceover slides. Handwrite out your tutorial answers. You don't have to write everything out. For example, there are situations where typing your work on your computer is absolutely compulsory. You may need to submit a practical report or assignment, and the lecturer may ask for a typed out copy. The assessment may need to go through Turnitin and so on. However, there are also times when you are studying by yourself, making notes for yourself. Handwriting is a good tool in these times. Number 4, engage with your content as early as possible. Learn to recognize what you don't know. Number 5, on a weekly basis, make sure all your notes are up to date and all your tutorials are done and filed away. You must be able to turn to any topic, question or answer on the spot if needed. And number 6, there is a learning and psychological benefit from having your study material organized. Number 7, proper record keeping will help you better prepare for assessments. Number 8, finally, allow me to add a disclaimer. I am by no means perpetuating the idea that you must keep a hard copy filing system. It is my honest and well-informed opinion that keeping notes in the way I have described covers all the necessary areas that is needed to be acted upon by students to be successful. I myself have used elements of these methods in my undergraduate studies and they have served me well. I have asked academically struggling students to incorporate these into their studies and to serve the majority of them well. The onus is on you to take these ideas and to use them in a way that works for you. You need not follow every recommendation to the T, but read, understand, think, and implement them in the best way you see fit. Let me also say that prioritizing is key. If you choose to keep a filing system in this way, know that there will be times when you will have to choose between engaging with your content, making your note summaries, and completing something more important. The something more important might be studying for your test, it might be completing a practical report or completing an assessment. It is up to you to know what is more important. You can always get your file up to date when the work eases off. That's the whole point of keeping track of where you are, so that you're able to recover. All I ask is that you do not neglect the importance of keeping proper records. It may not be the most glamorous of ideals. It may not always take priority in your daily schedule, but there is one thing I can promise you. Nothing will improve your academics more than keeping proper records of notes and tutorials. Thank you for having patience and listening to the end. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through my email below. If and when the lockdown situation subsides according to the law of the land and the regulations put down by the university, that is when we return to normal. And if you are on PMB campus, My office details are also listed below. However, I strongly suggest you always make contact with me through email first under all circumstances. Enjoy your studies, stay strong, work hard. Best wishes.